Imagine waking up tomorrow and skipping your toothbrush. Not by accident, but just to see what happens. Within hours, a thin film of plaque forms, and research shows each milligram of it can hold over 200 million bacteria. As the days go by, those microbes turn harmful, lowering your mouth's pH and quietly starting to weaken your enamel. By the end of the first week, your breath changes, your gums look irritated, and your mouth's microbiome starts shifting in the wrong direction. Your immune system responds quietly in the background, sending early inflammation even if you don't feel a thing. And if all this unfolds in just a few days, what happens when you stop brushing for an entire 12 months? Over the next few weeks, the changes inside your mouth don't stay subtle, they slowly stack up. Plaque thickens, hardens into tartar, and quietly triggers early gum inflammation that many people brush off as nothing serious. As harmful bacteria gain space, healthy tissue begins to lose ground, almost like a problem developing behind a closed door. You may start noticing bleeding, sensitivity, or a strange taste that lingers. In this video, we'll walk through how these shifts develop month by month and how catching them early can protect your long-term health. Let's start with the first 24 hours, because problems begin faster than most people realize. Within a single day of skipping your toothbrush, your mouth forms a thin, sticky layer called plaque. The name sounds harmless, almost soft, but biologically it's a massive housing complex for bacteria. And the tenants don't pay rent. Plaque forms when proteins in your saliva coat the enamel, creating a surface that bacteria latch onto, like they've found freshly poured concrete. A study in the Journal of Dental Research found that early plaque can mature in just 12 hours. That means by the time you're finishing your day, millions of bacteria are settling in and building their colony. You can even feel it. The fuzzy texture on your teeth isn't your imagination. It's the biofilm growing thicker by the hour. The good news is that at this stage, brushing can still wipe everything clean, making this the easiest point to reverse any damage before it starts. By day 3, things take a noticeable turn. Your breath shifts from the typical morning smell to something sharper and harder to ignore. This isn't random. Without brushing, bacteria that prefer low-oxygen environments start to multiply quickly. These microbes break down leftover food particles and release volatile sulfur compounds, the same chemicals that make rotten eggs smell the way they do. Research in the International Journal of Dental Hygiene shows that these sulfur-producing bacteria can multiply dramatically within 48 to 72 hours of undisturbed plaque. So when your breath turns sour, it isn't betrayal, it's your body sending a scientific progress report. Many people also describe a faint metallic taste or notice they're chewing gum more often during this stage. The value here is simple. Once you notice this shift, brushing can still reverse almost everything before bigger problems begin. At the 1-week mark, the oral microbiome, the collection of more than 700 species living inside your mouth, starts tipping out of balance. Normally, beneficial bacteria act like tiny bouncers, keeping harmful microbes under control. But when plaque gets thicker and oxygen levels drop, the harmful species finally get an advantage. Studies from the American Academy of Periodontology show that even just 7 days without brushing can raise inflammation markers around the gum line. This is the earliest phase of gum irritation, and most people don't even realize it's happening. In real life, this shows up as redness along the gums, mild swelling when biting into crunchy foods, or a subtle soreness you shrug off. The important part, at 1 week, this inflammation is still fully reversible. Once you start brushing and flossing again, your gums bounce back quickly. When the 1-month mark arrives, gingivitis becomes the main storyline. Plaque that hasn't been removed now sits long enough to irritate the gums consistently. Bacteria release toxins, your immune system responds, and the gums start to swell. A clinical trial in the Journal of Clinical Periodontology found that bleeding on probing, a key sign of gingivitis, becomes significantly more common after 30 days without proper brushing. In everyday life, that looks like pink saliva in the sink, tenderness when eating, or suddenly becoming aware of your gums in a way you never were before. The good news? Gingivitis at this stage is still 100% treatable. Brushing twice a day, flossing, and possibly adding an antibacterial rinse can help your gums recover surprisingly quickly. This is still a fixable chapter, not a permanent sentence. 3 months in is where things get serious. Plaque that hasn't been brushed away begins to harden into tartar, a tough, calcified layer that clings to your teeth like cement. This happens because minerals in your saliva fuse with old plaque, turning it into a rough and porous surface. And bacteria love rough surfaces. A study in the Journal of Dental Research found that tartar buildup becomes visible in most people between 8 and 12 weeks without proper cleaning. Once this forms, brushing can't remove it. No matter how hard you scrub, tartar requires professional dental tools. People often notice yellow or brown deposits along the gum line, or they feel like their teeth never feel clean no matter how much they rinse. And that's the turning point. Still fixable, but not by you. At this point, you need a dental cleaning to reset your mouth before more serious problems begin. By the 6-month mark, your mouth has officially moved beyond mild irritation. This is where early periodontitis begins, something dentists consider a medical condition, not just a messy brushing streak. The tartar that hardened months earlier now slides under your gum line, creating deep pockets where oxygen can't reach. And when oxygen disappears, the worst bacteria thrive. These include species like Porphyromonas gingivalis, which researchers call a keystone pathogen because even small amounts can trigger major inflammation. Scientifically, long-term plaque activates inflammatory molecules such as IL-1B and TNF-A. A study in the Journal of Periodontology found measurable gum attachment loss within 4-6 months when plaque isn't removed. In simple terms, the fibers that hold your gums in place begin breaking down. In daily life, people notice cold sensitivity, bleeding when chewing tougher foods, or floss catching where it never used to. The key value here? Early periodontitis can still be stopped, but only with professional cleanings. Home brushing isn't enough anymore. By 9 months, the inflammation has been active long enough to reach the bone beneath your gums. This process is called bone resorption, and once it starts, things get complicated. A longitudinal study in the Journal of Clinical Periodontology showed significant bone loss around the molars between 9 and 12 months of neglect. The bacteria responsible, like T. denticola, release enzymes that break down bone tissue and weaken the support structure of your teeth. People often describe their gums looking lower, teeth appearing longer, or food getting stuck more often. Some even feel slight looseness when biting into firmer foods. And here's the hard truth. Once bone is gone, it's extremely difficult to rebuild without specialized treatment. This stage is still manageable, but it requires professional intervention and a lot of commitment. At the 12-month mark, the mouth crosses into irreversible territory. This is advanced periodontitis. Deep gum pockets, chronic inflammation, bone loss, and a high bacterial load all combine into a cycle that keeps getting worse. Research published in The Lancet identifies periodontitis as the 6th most common disease in the world, affecting nearly 1 billion people. Another study in the Journal of Dental Research found that individuals with 12 months of poor oral hygiene had a 3 times higher risk of tooth loss within the next 5 years. Day-to-day signs look like noticeable gum recession, shifting or wiggly teeth, chronic bad breath that gum can't hide, pain when biting, tartar visible during normal conversation. At this point, brushing alone can't fix things. Treatments often include deep scaling, root planing, root canals, periodontal surgery, and in severe cases, extractions. Your dentist essentially becomes the MVP of your healthcare team. Now let's zoom out, because the consequences don't stop at your mouth. One of the biggest discoveries in modern medicine is how closely oral health connects to the rest of the body. When gums are inflamed, bacteria slip into your bloodstream through tiny openings. Once inside, they trigger widespread inflammation. A 2020 study in cardiovascular research found that people with periodontitis have significantly higher levels of CRP and IL-6 markers linked to heart disease and stroke. Another review from the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology found a roughly 20% higher cardiovascular risk in people with untreated gum disease. For people with diabetes, the impact is even more serious. According to the American Diabetes Association, gum disease can worsen insulin resistance and make blood sugar harder to control. Everyday effects include higher fatigue, slower healing, and inflammation that feels random but actually isn't. So brushing isn't just about clean teeth, it's about lowering inflammation throughout your entire body. There's another dimension people often overlook. Oral health affects how you feel about yourself. Research from the Journal of Oral Biology and Craniofacial Research found that 74% of adults with visible gum disease reported embarrassment about their smile. And chronic bad breath can push people into social withdrawal without realizing why. Psychology studies back this up. In the Journal of Social Psychology, individuals with poor oral appearance were consistently rated as less confident, less approachable, and even less professional. In real life, this looks like avoiding photos, covering your mouth when laughing, or speaking less in close settings. And then there's the practical reality. Dental problems don't pause. They don't stabilize. They don't fix themselves out of kindness. They get worse, slowly and predictably, until something forces action. As gum disease progresses, treatment becomes more complex, moving from simple cleanings to deep cleanings, root canals, crowns, and eventually surgeries. None of these are quick. None of them are painless. And none are fun to hear buzzing next to your face. This is why the simplest habit, brushing twice a day, remains the easiest, fastest, and most reliable way to protect your mouth. Your future self will absolutely be grateful you took those 2 minutes. Now that you've seen what can happen inside your mouth over 12 months, it's clear how much those small daily habits actually matter. Your teeth and gums don't need anything complicated, just steady, simple care. 2 minutes of brushing might feel insignificant, but over time, it's one of the most powerful things you can do for your health. And if you've slipped out of your routine, that's okay. You can start fresh today, and your mouth will bounce back faster than you think. If this breakdown helped you understand what's really going on in there, leave a comment and share your thoughts. I'd love to hear which part surprised you the most. Hit the like button so this video reaches someone who might need the reminder. And if you want more easy, science-backed health tips, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for spending your time here. Taking care of yourself is always worth it.